Can have a positive impact on educational programs by helping students self-regulate, calm down, focus, and learn. Research has shown that sensory rooms can assist with improving life skills, coping skills, reducing sensory overload and stress, motivate learning, and assisting with sensory integration therapy. Some of the things I hope to purchase include sensory chairs, weighted blankets, sensory lighting, magnets and fine motor skills, fine motor tools, a mini trampoline to help with positive sensory needs, meditation tools, and headsets to help with overstimulation and loud noises. I'm working closely with Mr. Tamita from SACID. He's helped create the sensory room over at the junior high, so he's going to help me with some of the best practices with using it, so I'm really excited, and I thank you for accepting my application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Allison Biederman. She'll be
May I have a
discussing
quick
a
question?
sure.
Where is that room going to be housed?
That's a good question. So we discussed it a little bit, and I have a special needs room with a breakout room, and that was originally our thought, but then we started thinking who was going to use this. So we don't want to always have them have the need to walk through my classroom as I'm teaching. So we are going to discuss this with Mr. Weck and some other people in the building and see if there's some place that's more open where we can get students in. Nothing that's going to take away from other educational rooms, but there are some areas within the room, so we're going to kind of work with the team. So thank you for asking. So very good question.
Yeah, is the backup plan then still the breakout room?
That is the backup plan at this time. Any other questions?
Sorry.
Thank you. No, thank you.
All right, next we'll have Allison Biederman. She'll be talking about her approved application for a new piano for the Fine Arts Department.
Hello, I'm Allison Biederman. I'm the band director at the high school. And just first, I've stood up here and presented to many of you a few times over the last 5 years. And I just want to say, like, over the last 5 years, just the support from the board for the fine arts has been felt substantially. And I think on behalf of the whole fine arts team across the district, we really feel your partnership in making sure that these fine arts programs are so fulfilling for all of our students, available for all of our students, and at the highest level we can offer to them. So thank you so much, and I'm thrilled to be here again. And I really thank these two for taking the lead on this fund, and obviously we want to honor the Hackbrush Fund, and we applied to replace our grand piano in the auditorium. And our research has shown us that that current piano that's been in there, that we've used so much, has been since the early 1980s, has been in that high school. We've gotten so much from it, but it's time that a new instrument come in. And really, I know this fund is to benefit the high school, and it will, but this piano and that space is used across the entire district for so many musical events, talent shows, assemblies, and all the times we gather in there. And it's going to make such a big difference, and I hope you all will be able to come and hear something like, it's going to be such an immersive sound from this new instrument that will really fill up the space and not only benefit our students and make them feel like so in the moment and in the music having this instrument, also it will transform the audience experience too. So we're really excited for the next 40 years plus of this instrument. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we have.
Did you have any questions?
Yeah. Any other questions for us?
Just excited to see the money go to work.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, very excited.
Absolutely. So, and the process is already in process, so we look forward to these projects,
And so this is something you do, application process each year?
We're planning for, yes, every fall. The application will be made available to staff members, and then about Christmas, right before break or right after, people in the district will get the word whether their projects were approved or not, or were able to move forward.
Can we do an announcement on the district socials?
Jack, sure.
Jack,
Get it to a person,
talk a little bit about,
what it is, and
I don't think Hackbrush has come up in probably like 2 years, so.
Which is gonna happen.
It was very early.
Maybe speak about her a little bit and then what she's providing for us.
see our team.
I was just going to ask, because I had to go and look, I didn't know the origin story of this thing. This is sort of actually recent. It's 2019, which is, I know, it's
we
more
had-
recent than that piano.
We kind of had a real full
Right.
head of steam going, and then
Yeah.
we were
okay.
not in
Right.
school for a while, and
This
then
is the first one in a while.
this.
It's the first
This
one.
is the first
one.
This is the first one ever.
Yeah,
the first
ever.
one,
Wow.
yeah.
So it was established, but, and then it.
We had just
was
received
getting on
it,
the ground.
and then
I got it now.
Yes,
I got
everything
it now.
changed, and
That is
the committee was
interesting.
not able to meet, and we've had some administrative changes and some business office changes that have kind of affected the process. But now we're back.
Well, then this is a
Yes.
communication
Yeah.
opportunity,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah,
If
totally.
if you could share that with Edith, and I'm sure Anna would do a great video over it, so.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And thanks for taking the lead on this.
Yes.
Yeah, this would not have happened without Lori and Jamie, to be honest with you. They really have been consistent. They put together the application process, they've followed through, and it was the two of them that made this come to life. And now we have 3 great first projects to fund.
We do.
Fantastic.
Thanks for your
Thank you.
support.
Thank you so much.
And your
Thank you.
time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Any other comments at all? Okay, we'll move on to our next discussion item, is the elementary location update. So,
Since they took the time, could we have our leaders from Leggett and from Nicholas just introduce themselves because the board asked for any questions that you may have or any discussion, so.
Sure. Good evening, Joe Papanicholas, Construction Manager, Nicholas and Associates, Vice President.
And Rob Roble from Leggett Architects.
So, yeah.
So just at the board's request, we have Joe and Rob here to perhaps answer any questions. Do you want me to do a quick summary, or is somebody else going to do of the location committee?
No, you can
Go to town.
Go to
Yes.
town, yeah, do it, Jack.
Yes.
So the board absolutely wanted community input about the location for the possible elementary school that is pending and needs voter approval on April 1st. And there was a lot of consideration. That was all discussed. We had a committee of close to 30 members that met on January 7th. It was facilitated by Dr. Lori Cozy, an outside agent, to make sure that we went through a process to get community input. We went over the options that were available to us. We considered everything within the district, from the Miller location, which was primarily deemed not a feasible location due to eminent domain. We'd have to displace 7 of our families. That was very important part of the decision-making process. It would also include displacement of students and disruption of education if that option was the chosen option. Manning, for similar reasons, most likely eminent domain issues, and also the very difficult logistics of having to displace a third of our students for a year or two. That's just not feasible. So those options to rebuild a new school there were not counted as viable. We're keeping the south location, but once again, to get the footprint we needed, we would have to have eminent domain. That was deemed not as something that was desirable for the district. We looked at the Cass and Naperville option. That footprint is restricted to begin with, and the difficulties of having to acquire additional property from Commonwealth Edison. We cannot do eminent domain with Commonwealth Edison, and the footprint was deemed to be too small without that space, perhaps even with that space. So those were the options. Fritz Worley Park was at least a consideration, but because of prior intergovernmental agreements, the village understandably was not willing to give up that space for a new school, but it was considered. And so it left us with 2 possible properties, Oakmont and what we're calling the Blackhawk properties, which are adjacent to the Ty Warner Park. The committee went through the strengths and weaknesses of each of those options. Pretty overwhelmingly, the vote was 22 to 2, with 2 abstentions in favor of the Blackhawk properties. And there was pretty significant give and take and consideration. But the recommendation from Dr. Cozy at the last board meeting was to move forward with the Blackhawk properties, we're calling them. We have spent a lot of time as a board and administration talking to the village about options, including this option. And we have the agreement from Ty Warner Inc. to sell us those properties, that they would be torn down and then build a new elementary school. This all is very contingent upon voter approval. So this is, the Oakmont location was considered, but for a variety of reasons, the recommendation of the committee was to move forward with the Blackhawk properties, we're calling them. So one of the major issues in the last referendum that we heard from the community was that some people wanted to know location. And so after the board's convening of the location committee, we've had the recommendation, and then for the board tonight to consider this option.
And how the board is not necessarily a vote because there's so many contingencies to think of. But you know, again, like Mr. Baldwin said, the community has asked us what does the board want to do, or what is our intention? And we've always wanted to get feedback from our community, and that's just what we did. But at the end of that, what comes out of this discussion is, what does the board want to do with their intention? And so we have the advice from that committee. But we also asked, moving forward, what does that mean? And we have some questions for our consultants. So.
Do you guys see any issues with building on Blackhawk?
I was just thinking that because we have a lot of flood areas with all the other buildings we were looking at. Have you noticed anything like that over there?
We haven't gotten into that level of detail.
Okay.
Because I don't know if it has a history of flooding.
Okay.
But the property seems to be the right size, right, depending on how many lots are purchased. But, because we looked at, the 2 of the sites versus 3, and it'll fit with 2, and it's nice, the adjacency to the park to the north, and obviously to the middle school, so it's, it's a nice property. So, no, I don't, there's not a lot of playfield space. So if we look at the 2 properties, we looked at the 3-story building footprint on that site, and then plus the parking, and then there's some area for playgrounds, but not a football field or a soccer field. Right. So that would be the one limitation of it. So then you'd have to rely on the park next door or the junior high site to provide those play fields, but other than that, it would work.
Could you speak to like the process? So again, we talked about contingencies and what we can do, being limited by one, continuing to work with, for one, Taiwan Company, but also like we don't have an approved referendum, but how much can we do, or how can we, is there any work that could be done in the meantime, I guess, is speaking to that process?
It's a matter of risk. Right. So we would normally start the process with the community engagement or with a committee, kind of talking about what the goals of the project were or are, and then we would develop a program. So we have a rough idea of what your needs are, but we would want to get into specifics. A building program is basically a list of every single room that's required in the building and how big it is. So we created a fictitious plan just to help with the site selection and the referendum committee. So we have a vague idea of what your needs are, but we'd want to get into that a little bit deeper. And then you really start the schematic design process, which is laying out the building, designing each floor and test fitting it on the property. So without a site, it's very difficult to do that because the building has to be custom fitted to the property that it's on. So without knowing the site and the constraints or the limitations of the site, it's difficult to go much further than that. But that initial programming, those initial kickoff meetings, that could be started without jeopardizing too much.
Can we talk about timeline a little bit? So we've talked a lot about when we want to go to bid and the impact on different times for going to bid, which we saw, right? So what is our ideal time to go to bid to get as close to our ideal 625 number? And then can we kind of go backwards from there? Can we talk about that piece of it?
I mean, ideally, it would be nice to commence in the fall. With the idea of turning it over a couple years later.
Like October? Like of 2020?
September, October.
2025?
Of 25, 2-year build puts us at 2027. We have to be careful to not constrain the design process too much either. It's very important to, start what Rob just alluded to, and then you get into schematic design and construction documents. It's very important we have minimum 4 to 5 formal budget checks just to ensure that as the design is progressing, that we maintain the budget. So all that process, all that work takes a certain amount of time.
The other thing I'll add to that is we know that you want to be engaged and your community wants to be engaged and kept up. That tends to lengthen the process a little bit. So we want to make sure that when we're developing that schedule, we're keeping that in mind and knowing which milestones, we want to Joe's point about the budget, we want to be bringing that to you to make sure that you're comfortable with that we're on budget, we're on track. And then we want to be, design updates and ideas and engage the community as well. So that's.
I know it's something that does come up there, and I know it's preference with some community members that I've heard throughout this process that you hear from community members, like, what is your end goal? Just tell me that. to where there's some, there's like, I want to know about this process and what are you doing and how much, how much, so.
I mean, working back from August 27, there's really two options. It's commence in the fall or commence in spring of 26.
So what does that mean for bidding?
Well, I mean, before we even go out to bid, we have to make sure that we do that thorough budget check. We cannot skip that process. There are certain things where we can do early bid packages where we're taking a portion of the project that has been designed, such as foundations and structural, and we put that out for bid while the rest of the school is being designed. That's not ideal. It's always good to keep everything together, budget it together, design it together, budget it together, bid it together. When you start breaking things out, there's just more exposure. You don't want to find out that something's running over budget, meanwhile we've released 4 or 5 bid packages already. Like, that's not a good position to be in. So I would highly recommend we keep everything together. So then it's just a matter of, can we be out to bid late summer in an effort to start in 25? If not, it's not the end of the world. I mean, we've started these things in the spring. We have to hit the ground running in March, April, in this case 26, and turn it over in 16 months. We've done it before numerous times, and then the critical part of that is we absolutely have to be under roof in the winter of 26 to ensure we deliver in 27. So,
But the impact
it's just a more aggressive schedule, that's
Yeah.
all.
But the impact between a fall bid package and a spring bid package is potentially a higher price per square foot.
It's bidding later.
Yeah.
And you're overlapping more in summer critical work
Yeah.
of 26.
So I want to
would
make,
add to that, it's a very desirable project. And to Joe's point about, winter construction, is if we're under roof before winter, now it's all indoor work.
Yeah.
So summer crews that are busy outside can be inside and keep busy all year. So I think it's still, again, very nice project that contractors will want to bid on.
okay, so just kind of like backtracking, right? Shooting for a request for bids, right? RFP, 9/1, September 1st, still puts us at a prime bid time, yes? Or no?
Yeah, we're essentially, design has to be done in 7 months or so.
Yeah, so.
That's what we're looking at.
Can you talk about?
I mean,
Can you talk about, let's talk about that design process a little bit?
I was going to suggest October, you said September.
And that's how you count 6
Well,
fingers,
just the-
not
just
7?
it's fresh in my head. So
Late.
the two Joliet schools, we bid those, I think July, we were out to bid in July, we bid them in August. Obviously went through, formal board approval.
Yeah.
We commenced our first day on the job, I want to say it was the second week of September.
Oh, okay.
So as we stand today, foundations obviously are complete, structural steel is well underway, we have some precast wall panels up, all the underground plumbing is done. So when spring gets here, you could see how much work has taken place. We'll be under roof easily this summer. And those are being delivered in summer of 26. Very efficient schedule, very low stress. Versus if we chose to break ground in another 2 months, completely different picture.
Right.
Very aggressive. Can be done, we've done it multiple times, it's just more aggressive.
Carlos.
So you could see, but both projects, they'll be bid aggressively, there's no doubt about that. But that kind of gives you a perspective.
Okay.
You just, did you have something else?
Just design timeline.
Yeah, well, yeah, so
yeah.
you just said 7 months. We could say 7, we could say 8, but you're talking about counting from now.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, so that's assuming there would be some level of
Risk.
and commitment from the district to the design team to start going.
Yeah, so I don't have as many questions about the design time as I do about the risk. What are we talking about here? What is the potential sunk cost of beginning that design process now and not achieving a successful referendum?
I don't want to speak for him, but I've had.
And very top line is fine.
I had given some preliminary numbers to Anthony about a month ago, and I have no idea, can't remember what they were. It's, I don't know, maybe $100,000, $50,000, somewhere
Very
in that
top line is
range.
fine. I just want to get a
Again, it just
sense.
depends on how far and what we want to accomplish.
So, okay, so the board has a couple things to think about. One, do we intend to follow the community committee? And do we intend to continue negotiating on the Blackhawk properties with the intention of purchasing them, provided that the referendum passes?
That's the main thing. that we're
Yeah,
talking
that's
about.
the main.
Well,
Right.
so we have that, but then if, regardless of that answer, because we still have to, do we intend to continue negotiating on Blackhawk? Or do we intend to continue negotiating on Oakmont? Which is not the community committee's recommendation, knowing that we're just continuing negotiations, because nothing matters until the referendum passes.
Right.
And if that answer is yes to Blackhawk or yes to Oakmont, do we want to jumpstart that design process prior to the referendum passing? With the hope
No.
that we would still hit our ideal timeline of opening in August of '27, opening this new building in August of '27. So that's like the two pieces, but there is a very real cost to that.
Yeah.
That
And I'm.
there's a lot of things up in the air. There's a lot of real estate transactions go knees up all the time for a lot of different reasons. So we could intend to go after the Blackhawk properties, and the referendum passes, and it could still fall apart, and we're still looking for another, and then we might be talking about a different location.
Yeah, I don't, what I hear is there is no design process without a location, right? Or at least there's not one that makes any real sense. You're not designing in a fictitious location, right? So these things are, it's either we make a decision real soon that, no, we're gonna narrow our focus on this location, and if it doesn't work out because of the referendum doesn't pass, or because we aren't, well, we're gonna lose that opportunity, we're gonna lose that money, right? Whatever, 50, 100, whatever, or 48 and a half. And so that's, whatever that's gonna be, is gonna be money we lose if we decide that. And but that is the only path to having a school open
In '27.
in '27.
Right.
Can you guys clarify that, right? If we don't start design, and let's say all things go the way that we would love for them to go, and April 4th, the referendum passes, and we know that we can start to move forward. If we start the design process on April 5th, is there any chance we get an August 27 opening date? In
I
budget.
think so.
In budget.
The stare.
So with Joe, it's like if we were awarding construction contracts, say in December, and breaking ground as soon as the frost comes out in March, April, that's
In '26.
almost,
Yeah, it's,
I mean, it's,
it's a viable option. It'll
Yeah.
be successful. It's just the schedule's, it's a
It's
different
tighter.
picture.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah,
Well, when I hear
schedule's tighter.
when I hear tight schedule, I see dollar signs.
But we don't know that.
We don't know
know
that,
that, and that's speculation. I think
Yeah.
it's probable that it's higher cost, and it's probable that it's higher cost just because of the way the bidding works, is what I'm understanding. So if you risk $50,000, $48,500 right now, and you end up saving it
You're right.
Right.
because you're able
Yeah.
to bid and at
Saving
an
a lot
advantageous
more.
time, and you
Saving
end
a
up
lot
saving
more, yeah.
$3,000. You haven't lost anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, but this is all speculation.
We'll be breaking ground on the new school, Lincoln School in District 57 in Mount Prospect this fall. We just finalized the programming now,
Whoa.
so kind of,
The other thing I
sure Rob
hear,
can knock that out in a week or two, so it's like the same timeline. So,
Easy.
but there's decisions we can make about the construction schedule. So if you're building a concrete block building, it's gonna take longer, because the mason's,
Right.
slower. But if we build it out of structural steel, it can go up
quicker.
faster, we can get the building enclosed faster. So there's decisions we can make depending on what the construction schedule is. That will help.
the other
That
thing.
helps me a lot. I'm sorry, I'm going to shut up after
No,
this,
no,
but
go.
that helps me a lot, because it felt for about 5 minutes ago that like, either we decided the location in the next, I don't know, call it month, and that we're gonna start designing and we're gonna start focusing on that location, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And that's a risk, but that's the only path to opening in August 27. And it does not sound like that is necessarily the only truth, right? So it sounds like there is a path to opening in August of 27, even if we wait to begin the design process until after April 1st. What day?
Yes, it's aggressive on the design and the construction standpoint, but it's possible.
There's risk all over the place.
And I don't know if, my question too is, we definitely cost and the financial cost of starting something now and the risk of that. But I also want to speak to the risk of, that we've learned, and these are thoughts from our community members, but some people felt rushed. And I don't want to repeat that mistake of feeling rushed on this project too. And so it's just something I want to keep in mind, that I don't want to take for granted that process of getting the community involved to say, yes, we are looking at this location, or we have this location, and now let's get you involved, and what does this vision look like? So I don't want to rush that either, and people feeling like they didn't have a part in that. So I want to do that. I don't know, there are caveats with not 48, but maybe 22 and a half, that we are able to do something prior to April. I don't know, I don't know the right answer.
The two sites that you're considering, Oakmont and Blackhawk, right? I mean, very different day and night solutions to the problem.
Right.
But the program, the first step of understanding what you need in terms of rooms would apply to either building. Right? So if we know that it's 3 classrooms for every grade level, and we know that pre-K is going to be part of that plan, then that we can, again, test fit how that fits in Oakmont, how it fits on Blackhawk. So there's the program.
There are things we can do.
Is the first step that would apply to no matter which property you buy. So if that were, be able to done before the referendum.
Right.
Then we hit the ground running as soon as it passes.
That's helpful to know, I feel like. That's a perfect segue, actually, because circling back to kind of our primary purpose of this conversation, which is to take the recommendation or consider the recommendation of the location committee. I think one of the things that really stood out to me in the report of their recommendation was, because really there was a lot of there's many strengths to both of the locations, but one of the things that I thought was a very compelling points that were brought up in favor of Blackhawk were that we wouldn't have to retrofit a school building into an office building, and instead we get to just kind of build this on a blank canvas, and what that would do to benefit students and their learning environment. For me, as an educator, I see tons of enormous benefits where it's worth a little bit more, and we could market, or not market, but talk more openly about the benefits of that. But I would love to hear just from your guys' areas of expertise. Can you speak to that a little bit, the benefits, since that's what we're hearing from the location committee is the recommendation, the benefits of that blank canvas versus the retrofit? Because I think that is something that they said that was, we're back and forth, ooh, that's a really excellent point.
I mean, it's a substantial amount of money and it has to be right. I just feel with Oakmont, there's that design hardship, and then there's going to be unforeseen conditions that we run into during construction, and you're just forcing the change. And an unforeseen condition in a concrete structure, I mean, you're talking millions of dollars. So that differential that we're looking at now becomes smaller.
Potentially, yeah.
It's what don't we know? I think it's all about reducing risk and starting with a blank canvas. It's too important of a decision to create more risk.
So I think that if we follow that recommendation of the committee, it really in truth is showing that we care very deeply about carefully spending whatever money we're asking for, because we want to reduce that risk. And even though on face value it might be more, we're reducing that potential risk of, oops, we ran into this. I think of those HGTV shows where they start their project and then it's oh no, we have to mitigate this. Yeah.
Just the one component, we had some discussion over safety and egress and putting in an appropriate stairwell or multiple stairwells. Just to put those in alone, I'm thinking in my head, remediating this concrete structure, opening it up,
And then
the
what?
means and methods of demoing it safely,
Yeah.
implementing shoring. It's very intense, intrusive. It takes time, a lot of engineering. It's not that easy. So,
Thank you.
And it's still a 35-year-old building.
and it's still an old building, and it's still multi-story.
Because I was
It's not ideal.
I was in favor of that in the beginning, but no, I'd hate to retrofit a school into an old office building. We still have an old building.
Right.
I was just going to say the same thing. It's not unlike thinking about Miller and Manning, where you're trying to take a new, modern school delivery program and shoehorn it into an existing building, and essentially that's what you're doing with Oakmont. Is now we're custom tailoring your dreams into a shell that's already there, and what compromises are going to have to make to make that happen. I mean, I'm confident we can come up with creative solutions and do it, if that's what ultimately the board chooses. In fact, I think it'd be an interesting challenge to do so, but there's going to be some limitations, and the contingencies of potentially dealing with an existing building is something we can't look beyond.
Is there the optionality of, I'd be remiss if, because this was asked at one point, tearing down Oakmont? I mean, the Oakmont location is a similar size to the Blackhawk location. If, gosh forbid, Blackhawk doesn't happen, right, for whatever reason, is another potential to tear down Oakmont and rebuild there, because we're tearing down buildings. If we go Blackhawk, we're tearing down buildings, right? And we're building from scratch. Oakmont is still less expensive at fair market value. So is that a potential backup? Let's say we start the process, we go forward, Blackhawk, whatever, and then it's Blackhawk doesn't happen, and we're okay, well, we still have Oakmont. It's still an option. We could still purchase it. Could we tear it down and put what we were hoping to put at Blackhawk on Oakmont? Is that
In theory, yes.
reasonable an idea? Because I think that also, for me, that helps me be a little bit better with maybe starting some design work also, understanding because it did, right? Listening in at the community meetings, it was this piece of what is the quality of the education for the students of that age in that building versus the significant cost difference in that building as a whole, and also just the cost difference of retrofitting versus remodeling versus building new, versus the location and the building fresh at Blackhawk. So, I think I would be okay starting, understanding that okay, well, if something falls apart, if we go towards Blackhawk and something falls apart, we still have Oakmont where we could tear it down and essentially put that building up there.
I mean, at the
if that's
Oakmont
reasonable.
site, an early design task would just kind of, let's think about the means and methods, and if we need to do X, Y, Z, what's the cost of that? If it's less to tear it down, why are we even gonna fight that?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's tear it down.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Is there a world where it's less to tear it down?
Oh, I mean.
Maybe?
Yes,
Potentially,
demo's
yeah.
pretty cost effective, so, it wouldn't be a hard exercise to figure that out, and as soon as that extensive work outweighs just tearing it down.
I think it is
It
another
makes-
option, but I think that a question came up, kind of their side conversations in every meeting, but I heard the same question, but I think some of the, I forget what the meaning, the challenges versus the drawbacks, whatever word for that site that people discuss was your green space, and it's in an industrial park, and access. And I think transportation was an issue for both, but access to that one specifically. Some other community members came up with great ideas on sharing, field space with the high school and whatever that means. But I think without a full discussion of that, having that site and that's tearing down, but that site itself had its drawbacks, as opposed to the Blackhawk site where there's green space available. And so you have that. But I still I always like options. Because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And another thing to add to a potential renovation of Oakmont would be, think about it from a contractor standpoint and bidding the work. You open up a set of plans and you see a pretty extensive renovation, I mean, you bid that differently than new construction.
Right.
Bid sort of to
Contingencies,
protect yourself to some degree. Yes, it's competitive bidding. You can't be adding all sorts of costs and still expect to be low on the project. However, you got to believe across the board, there's assumptions being made because we don't know everything.
Right, right.
So that's not good bidding.
Yeah. And it's not knowable.
Right.
It's not knowable.
So.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess question one for the board is do we intend to follow the community committee's recommendation as far as the properties are concerned? Our intention to continue negotiating pending the referendum passing on Blackhawk. And I want to, and we're not voting, so this is like, yes.
This is not a,
This is
final.
not a
This will be-
vote. We are not voting on this. We will at no point vote on Blackhawk versus Oakmont. When and if we purchase a property, if the referendum passes, what would happen is that we would approve the real estate contract when it's like sign on the dotted line. So like, that's the time that the board would actually be taking any official action. So
So you want a straw poll?
to be,
Yes.
you can't even call it a straw poll.
I think we can.
To be super, super
Our
clear.
intention, the community is asking, what are our intentions?
intent?
Where are we gonna put our focus?
And that's a
More
fair
so.
question going
Yes.
into the referendum again. I
Yes.
mean, that was a struggle the
right.
first time around. And
Yeah.
so I feel a lot better about being able to say, like, you know, we're following a recommendation this time and, you know, being able to communicate that more and get people in on that conversation before the referendum.
So you're saying intend to go after?
Oh, am I first? I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As she said it,
definitely.
you're willing to follow that
Yeah,
recommendation.
yeah, I definitely am willing to. And I think with that, just wanting to say that I think it's not an easy decision. I know many of us are going to say that. It's not an easy, like, yes, we're doing this, because I know there are such strong feelings. I mean, there are still people who are feeling like, well, why isn't it in Central Westmont? And, you know, so it's tough. But I think given everything that I've heard and the steps we took to involve a lot of voices, it makes the most sense to follow that recommendation at this point in time for me. And I hope that people will still stay really involved in the process as we, you know, take next steps.
Yep, you're next, Carlos.
Well, no, I mean, you guys, we've talked about this enough, you guys know exactly what I think. I mean, it's my intention to be home about 11 minutes after the end of this meeting. But there's a train right there, and I don't know if I'm gonna get stopped by that train or I'm not. So is it my intention to be home within 11 minutes? Yes. And it would be my intention that we pursue the Blackhawk location. But it's just an intention at this point, and I don't know if that carries weight, then great. It's a great option. But there are so many other things to think about between now and April. So.
I'm in agreement with, like Carlos said, the intention with Blackhawk. I think it was explained very well, you know, with what you all presented. I'm like, put at more ease with what you presented, just like with the classroom implementation of just knowing, regardless, it could be in the middle of town or, you know, where we're considering or elsewhere, that has to be done regardless. So I think that that's definitely a great benefit, that we can go with the intention of what is planned with Blackhawk, and then still, when we get to that point, you know, at least, you know, move forward with that step. So, and I appreciate you clarifying that.
I'm coming on the opposite.
Oh, sure. To me, I think my intention is Blackhawk. It's the more desirable, the two locations, more accessible to the town than Oakmont. I would love the school in the center of the town, but there's just not the property to put it there, you know, so Blackhawk.
Definitely without taking space from families.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, we don't have that option.
Right.
You're next.
Or it's not
You're next, you're in
Next,
order,
Leah.
Leah.
Yeah.
Don't be looking at Ange.
I'm fine with following the committee's recommendation. I'm glad that the committee was overwhelmingly for Blackhawk, because I'm not gonna lie, I fully expected it to be 50-50.
Yeah.
Just like everything
Everything
else that we do.
Right, yeah.
Because it is very hard to know all of the projects that we have and to put a dollar amount on education is very hard. It's very hard to say this property is potentially going to cost us $15 million less, and that's $15 million that we could spend on other projects. That then potentially, protects our taxes and our tax and all of those all of those pieces, which was absolutely my biggest struggle with both of these properties. Blackhawk is obviously adjacent to more green space, which is wonderful, and it is more expensive with the information that we have today. Oakmont is also adjacent in a very interesting way to the high school, and from a traffic situation, but it's the cost. And even if we tore down, Oakmont potentially could still be less than Blackhawk. So that's the biggest part of it. So I appreciate that the community committee did the work and gave us their feedback, because I was certainly undecided. And I appreciate that it was very overwhelmingly Blackhawk. So I'm A-okay following that recommendation and intending to purchase it, provided that
We can.
the referendum passes.
My intention is the same. I think the committee made a good choice. I like the whole campus idea. It's not really a campus, but, families can hit every school. But clean slate, that's what I see. I like it. I like the clean slate. And yeah.
And I'm in agreement too with following committee's recommendation here. I didn't see any other reason not to. I do see, we keep using that word intention because, I'm just brought back to even on the journey of buying my house I have now, but there are other properties that I knew for sure was it, and we're not living there. But I kind of see it as a benefit. This is a property that hopefully is willing to be sold to us. I know, hopefully it's not something we get in a bidding war with anyone else. So that's a benefit of the Blackhawk properties. I don't know, like we said, even just like the Naperville and Cass option, like there are other people, like reasons we couldn't really even speak about it, and I know people are upset about that, but you get in bidding wars for other properties and then it's not available. Yep. So we don't know what's going to change tomorrow. With the information we have today, that's what we're working with. But I'm okay with saying that, I'm going to go with the recommendation from that committee and pursue this, and hopefully maybe getting a step closer to a design process in if it's the beginning parts of the process, still looking at both, but mainly one area that we can start that we can do that, and being very positive that we can move on from there and bid and build. But yes, I'm in agreement with that.
So question 2, do you guys want to start the design process? Or do you want to wait till we pass?
I would like to wait.
Yeah. And
Like,
if,
no,
I guess,
wait to answer that
I think
question.
a
I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait to answer that question.
A question I would have, and it's something I want to speak about now, but a question I would have to get more information from you. What does that involve? Are there any caveats? Is there a way that we can do it where we don't spend as much in any start? And I think the board just needs that, to know what we're spending or what we're doing exactly before we say we want to start. Yes. I need to know what that means. Other things I want to do, and speaking to the board, but also working with the administrators moving forward, is setting dates for having come talk to the board, have coffee with the board, having your availability to be there, that people can ask in person and we can publish dates. I want to work on that to start to get information sessions out. And again, this is information, as that's still something I've heard, and it makes me twitch a little bit, but there's people like, I don't have the information. How do I get it? I want to help you get the information. If that means we're sitting at a computer having a coffee together, and we're going to do that and publish that all out. But I just want to be able to schedule and organize with that. time with the board members, and definitely have, I think there's a space for, another, more town halls. I think there's a space for that too, but I want to have, asking the board to come together and come out with dates that we can have those times for our community to come out and maybe ask Nicholas and Leggett the questions they may have. And then hopefully that goes into, after we have more information to deal with, we can start that process, and we can answer that question soon.
So what
we want to start that
information-
process.
What information do you guys need? Does the board need to make that decision if we start or not? Because that would be a great thing to ask them tonight so that we can, because time is of the essence. We've got a board meeting in another couple weeks. Are there specific things that we need to know in order to?
Yeah, I've never designed an elementary school building before, so I don't really know what the process looks like. But if you could just tell us what's sequential, what does an appetizer look like? What does some main dishes look like? What is dessert? What could we do? What's the universe look? What does it look like? And what does each bite cost?
Yeah.
I would say, again, start with your goals and expectations for the building, right? Because that could be applied to no matter what, building you choose to move forward with. And then the building program, just deciding what needs to be in the building and why.
And even with
understanding
that, how do we get that information, or how do you usually get that information? Is it a survey? Is it a meeting? So things like that, how?
All of the above.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could do it and give it to you for your review, but we don't like to work that way. We'd rather work collaboratively.
Right.
So normally what we would recommend is that you have a core team of decision makers. So whether that's some administrators, some of the board, some community members, but a relatively small group, 5-6 people that are charged with making the decisions, because there's literally a million decisions that need to be made during the design process, right? And we're going to want to do that with you. So having that group, and then whether there's a separate group that's talking about the building design or the building program, that there could be offshoots of that, but there should be a core team of decision makers that we're meeting with regularly. So, and then, that group would then come back to you with feedback, or could make presentations to the community to make sure that they're plugged in and involved. But I think there's relatively low risk in doing those first 2 steps before April 1st. And to some extent, we've already made a commitment to you with our time and our participation to date. I'd have to run it up the flagpole, but I'm sure we can continue to be good partners before April 1st and minimize the risk that you guys are taking.
I wanted to say to both of you, thank you so much for all the time you guys have spent with us. I hate whenever I'm having an argument over wallpaper in front of the person that's just trying to get to the end of their day with my wife, so I really appreciate you guys watching us argue and helping us to understand ourselves a little bit better, what we're trying to achieve here. So thank you for that. But I didn't quite catch the 2. I got goals and expectations. What's the second one?
The program that I mentioned, the building program. So just a list of all the spaces.
Building program, you called it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And those are 2 separate steps.
Correct.
That take about how long? Depends on how involved the community gets. I get that, but this is like a 2-3 month thing?
Oh, period, weeks.
Oh, weeks.
Potentially.
Okay.
And you said we can have it done before April 1st?
Easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a matter of weeks, that I'm going to say 6 weeks, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to maybe meet with Jack or put together a proposal or a schedule or, kind of flesh this out a little bit more.
That would be great,
Perfect.
yeah.
Before your next board meeting, and
Perfect.
maybe we can meet and talk through it.
That'd be really helpful.
Perfect.
That's all I need.
And it backs up to about early March, no,
Yeah.
mid-February.
Yeah.
Mid-February is where it backs up to.
Anything else?
That's great.
Anybody need to know?
That's it. I think we should.
That's a start.
I think that's a start, and I think we should think about what admin should be involved, because they're the ones that know the programming. So, yeah.
I think we're good.
I want to say, as Carlos started to allude to, and I know the board believes this, the board was very careful in its selection of Nicholas and Leggett, and I think you have been great partners. Really appreciate that. You have great reputations, unbelievable experience in this field, and I am so grateful that the board selected Nicholas and Leggett as partners in this process. You've been there every step of the way, completely accessible, knowledgeable. Your experience and your reputation is well-deserved, so thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank
Glad
you.
to be here and
Thanks.
glad to continue to work with you.
Yes.
So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I'm also grateful that we had the board wanted a community committee for the location, and their decision was pretty overwhelming, wasn't even close.
Right.
And now that the board has, all 7 preferred the Black Hawk location, I want to say, I think it's a stunning location. We should be excited about this. If we're going to ask the community for $70 million, we should be excited about what we're doing, and I am thrilled with it. Every day I come to work, I think, how can we make this the best school district in Illinois? Not a good one or a very good one, but an amazing school district. And in many, we'll never be finished, but we've done that in so many respects. There's more work to do. This is an outstanding school district. And it is all contingent upon the voters coming and supporting us at the referendum. But this gives us the opportunity to have a location and an elementary school that we can be unbelievably proud of and excited about, and not retrofitting a 35-year-old building or not having to displace our fellow community members from their homes, but building fresh and partner with a corporation and an individual in Ty Warner who's been unbelievably generous to this community. So as much as there's been going back and forth, at the end of the day, we should be excited about this. I am. I'm thrilled that this is where we're at. Now we just need the community to support us and say yes on April 1st. Because all of it doesn't matter if that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you very much,
Thanks, guys.
Joe.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Yeah, and I think we'll coordinate a timeline. I think there's advantages to working back from a fall commencement. And,
Okay.
you know, let's assume best case scenario and put a game plan together and review it.
And definitely, you know, that's something we're open to sharing with our community too. It's just, there are many people that want to know and have that, and they ask for steps. We're going to share that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in either scenario, a turnover in 27, in August of 27 is
That's the goal.
doable.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So that's for sure. It's just which path are we taking to get there?
Right.
So, all right?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments at all? Right. So we're skipping presentation of the monthly financials and moving to number 4, policy first reading. And so there are always updates. We use a company called Press that is very helpful as we look at school board policies. So we have a reading with updates that have been made. We have a memo that the committee kind of looked over prior to this meeting. And so many things are small. There are footnotes, word changes, reference changes. I don't know if you want to take a minute to look at it or if you have any discussions there. And not much that is major that's there, but we do have that outline and then ready to be adopted at our next meeting. But this is just for information.
I missed the committee meeting, sorry, but was there anything that came up during the committee meeting that is worth?
So with, it's something that we have on our own. So there's another information with how we lay out our FMLA leave, mostly with our office personnel.
Gotcha.
So it's not with the teachers or any union, but
Got it.
Basically how it sets out the 12-week leave.
Got it.
And so,
But standardizing it across.
yeah, that's actually similar to our union.
Right.
So it's similar, if not the same. And we just want to make that change.
So the proposed change is to try to get it as close to standardized across the district.
Aligned, yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
We have that information to kind of look over, and our next meeting, it will we'll ask for approval.
Yep.
With the other things that the press released, it wasn't anything that's like a huge change, just like previous, but definitely if you have questions, we'll discuss it and have opportunity to discuss any questions if something that you have a question about or comment about for our next meeting, we have that opportunity. Anything else I'm forgetting? All right, so we're going to move to our action item. So it's regarding our contract with the Transformational Business Services LLC for our interim CSBO. Before I call for the motion and any questions or statements with that being said, being transparent with this, we've said it in our committee meetings, but it's seen that our CSBO is out on leave, so this is why we're pressing forward with getting someone in that can do the work that this district needs. So.
My only comment is Dr. Gibson had a very impressive resume, great background, so he's well qualified to do this.
While Mr. Ruelli's on leave, Dr. John Gibson has 25 years of experience as a CSBO and is highly a valued person, and his initial contacts with our team have been incredibly positive. So he comes with tremendous experience, and we're very fortunate to have his services in the interim.
Yeah, I feel very good. I feel it feels good to have this him step in, and with his qualifications, I feel comfortable. I know the office staff can say that more than I am, but definitely I'm glad we have this opportunity to use his services.
Yeah, glad he was able to help out.
Yep.
We need a CSBO. There are things that only a CSBO can do, so it's, and we gotta, the business of the district has to continue going on, so we're glad we were able to get someone to help out.
Right.
All right, with that being said, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the contract with Transformational Business Services, LLC, to act as an interim CSBO for the 2024-2025 fiscal year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Dr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. We'll move to our superintendent's report.
I want to make the focus of my time tonight on acknowledging Lindsay Peterzak and Jada James. Lindsay is going to move on from being principal at Manning, and Jada will also move on as assistant principal. It's a very amicable decisions on all fronts, but I really feel the need to acknowledge and recognize and appreciate them at the highest level. They are two people who love young people and put everything they have into their work. And Lindsay, I was there the day she was named the principal at Manning, and ever since that day, she has given, with such great passion, her leadership to Manning and left it even stronger than when she first came there. And I know I speak for so many people who have tremendous gratitude for her talent, her love of kids, her love of people, her creativity, her expertise, and her leadership and her time as principal at Manning. All in, all the time, ridiculous dedication, and I'm so grateful for that. And Jada, too, has been a great partner over the last few years as assistant principal. I am so proud of what Manning has accomplished with the entire team there. And it's not just the exemplary rating and the increases in test scores, because those are pretty incredible, but it's when you go to the winter formal that they hold for the young people at Manning and seeing their smiling faces and seeing that they get to be social and experience that and have a great time. That was, a whole team's doing, but Lindsay and Jada helped to lead that. When I go over and give presentations to the student body at Manning, 2nd through 5th graders, these are young kids, but if you are present at those assemblies, those students are so respectful and they are on point, and that is a result of Lindsay and Jada's leadership and the whole team there and our whole school community. It's really, I'm so proud of Manning, but I really want to focus for just one more moment I'm so grateful for the time that we've had Jada as a leader in this district and look forward to the next few months. But Lindsay's dedication over the last 8 years, her creativity, her passion, her wisdom, her talent, she's all in all the time. And we're very fortunate to have had her as the principal at Manning School. And while we'll miss her leadership, we wish both of them the very best. They deserve it.
It's someone that's, it's someone that, proposes being good with change. I don't necessarily like inside. I'm just like, hate to see someone of this quality, make, transitions to move with their career. But with that being said, I'm so happy to have had that opportunity. I remember meeting her as a green parent, walking into school not knowing anything, just with my kid. And I love what she did with the school and how she made us feel welcome and my children feel welcome. Great leadership. I learned so much from her, regarding education, and she was always open with my questions that I had and how we're teaching and how we're engaging. So very happy to have Ms. James also to come, and as we welcomed her, she welcomed us in and grabbed onto our family. So I want to echo those sentiments that I'm very proud to have had them here in our district, and we'll miss them. Any other questions or statements? Any board reports?
Yes. So our local Cub Scout pack has to meet a elected official, and so they're actually going to be here prior to our next board meeting at 6 o'clock. So as many of you as can show up at 6, that'd be super, super duper helpful, so they can get a pat.
Do they have questions for us?
I'm guessing that they're going to ask us some questions about what it is to be an elected official and probably what we do and all of those things. So the more board members, the merrier. I did ask them if they could do it on a board night so that you'd be most likely to get as many board members as possible. So 6 p.m. before our next meeting.
And there is no committee meeting that night?
There's no committee meeting that night, yes.
Just a Cub Scout.
Just a Cub Scout meeting, yes. Yeah. So, Shannon, can you add that to our updates, our board updates? Just a reminder between now and then.
Thank you. I'll need that reminder.
Yes.
I'm worse. Can we get a calendar appointment? Is that possible? I'm just much worse. I need to see it.
Don't apologize.
I need to see it.
That's what we have a calendar for.
I know.
So yeah, the more the merrier.
Boosters at the high school. The Festival of Fun is going to happen on February 7th, so 1 week away. If anybody would like to donate, and I'm pleading out to the public, gift cards, personal business packages, things that you think would bring in money. This is one of our bigger fundraisers that helps with the scholarships for the seniors at the end of the year, and it brings a lot more new stuff into the building. Like we have the new chairs, we have the new scoreboard. Check out the new scoreboard. The new scoreboard is nice. So yeah, if anybody wants that, otherwise come and buy raffle tickets on the 7th. Manning will also be having their family dance at the high school that night, and their fundraiser as well. So it's going to be a big night of fun, and then we also have the Hall of Famers being inducted, so it's going to be a big community event next Friday.
I'll just continue with that with our future meetings and events. So we're getting into a very active season of activities and presentations, and games. So our next, something else I wanted to remind us all, the Ascend Conference with our Cabal group that runs that will be this Saturday, February 1st. I believe it starts at 8 a.m. Our future Sentinels Night and varsity boys and girls basketball game. So they're honoring the seniors that night from Winter Sports. That will be February 6th at 6 p.m. at Westmont High School. And again, mentioning the boys basketball and Westmont High School Athletic Hall of Fame induction is the 7th at 4:30 at Westmont High School. And then our next CUSD 201 regular meeting of the Board of Education is February 11th at 6:30 p.m. But prior to that, there'll be Boy Scouts here at Village Hall. All right, we do not have to enter into closed session. So the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the January 28, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.